Okay, and we're live! Yay! By the way, I love going live, and I'm really happy when people that we interview say, "Yeah, it's cool. Let's go live," because it means I don't have to edit anything in post. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live with Jessica Buettner. I hope I didn't murder that again. Athlete, champion, awesome person. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the chat, and thank you for making time for us because it looks very bright there. What time of day is it?
I think it's 6 p.m. I had to
Okay.
check for a sec.
All right.
It's summertime though, so it's real bright and it.
Yeah.
I don't think the sun will set till 9, so we're good.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's kind of cool. I may or may not, depending on the coffee, go back to bed and
That
and
makes
nap
sense.
a
Isn't
bit.
it 2 in the
Yeah.
morning over there?
Yeah, it's two. That's fun. But listen, you see, to be able to get time to chat with you, it's very, very worth it. So, absolutely. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for making the time. Can we kick it off? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about who you are? Oh wow, my audio
Um,
seems to be stalling today. Sorry. Can you see it? Do I look out of sync?
yes.
Wow. Okay. And the my main camera died, so sorry. We'll yeah, you can just ignore me on that. I'm going to close this camera down, and you can give us a quick rundown on who you are quickly.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I am first and foremost on this podcast because I'm a powerlifter. I won worlds in South Africa last year and in Sweden the year before. This year I got bronze, but I was still really pumped with it. So,
Mm-mm.
um, and I'm also a pharmacist, and I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, which is kind of right in the middle. But you wouldn't have heard of it because it's kind of a smaller place, I guess.
Right. Oh, cool. Okay. So like and cold, right? I think we discussed that last time.
Yeah, in the winter it's real cold. And the winter, the only thing about that I don't like is that it lasts a long time, probably 6 months of the year, and then it does get to -40, -50 in the coldest parts of it, usually
Re-
January, February.
Okay.
But
Wow.
the summers are pretty hot. Like it gets up into the 30s quite a bit.
Okay. Sure. All right. That's very, very cool. So, how did you? We've got a thumbs up. We've got a viewer. People can also drop comments if they like. I think we can just tell people to please ignore my video feed. Wow. Okay. This is what happens at 2 in the morning in South Africa. Um, how did you get into powerlifting?
I got into powerlifting. Um, I was doing track and field and then I sprained my ankle really badly. I'd always been good at the weightlifting side of things, but because I sprained my ankle, my one of my friends in the summertime when I was in university just asked me to do if I wanted to do a powerlifting meet with them, and I was very unprepared for it. I think I practiced for maybe I think I trained for maybe a month and a half
Okay.
beforehand for provincials. I didn't even have my own singlet or knee sleeves or my own belt at the time. I just went into the meet. It was provincials for Saskatchewan, which sounds like a big meet, but
Yeah.
it's fairly small over here. So, um, and then after that, I just fell in love with it. And I realized I was really good at deadlifting at that time because I deadlifted I think 350 pounds, which was 160 kilos.
Wow.
My other lifts were way under that though, like way. They've come way farther than my deadlift over the years, actually, believe it or not.
Okay.
Um, but I just fell in love with it because someone lent me a belt. It was actually Rhea Stin,
Mm-hmm.
who has won the World Games now. It's just always been a very welcoming community.
That's I think that's pretty much sums up powerlifting, a welcoming community. Um, can you chat a little bit about that? What does the community mean to you? What's so
Honestly,
special?
after
What's so special about the community as well? Yeah.
well, in powerlifting, even though you're competing against everyone else, and it is an individual sport, it still feels like a team sport in some ways, especially at competitions like Worlds where you have your home country behind you. But the community really means everything. The friends you make along the way become lifelong friends in a lot of cases. And it's just always a space where even when you're competing against someone, like you can still talk to them and you can
Mm.
still have a good relationship. And everyone has always been really helpful, which I've always appreciated a lot.
Right. 100%. I mean, we talk about sort of worlds last year in Sun City, where we saw sort of with your deadlift as well, where the guys that you were competing against were running out to watch you and to cheer you. I mean, it's I was like, wow, this is really really cool. Can you chat a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that was Agata. I bless her. I love her. I think she's just awesome. Um Her and I were neck and neck for the whole competition. I was up by 5 or 10 kilos on squats. She has an insane bench. So after that, she was 12 and a half kilos in the lead going into deadlifts. So basically, I had to make my last deadlift in
Mm,
order. And if I made it, I would beat her on body weight. And she still, after she was done deadlifting, she still went out there and was cheering for me, which I saw after, and I thought that was the most amazing thing. And I think I can say we're friends now that we know each
mm.
other better. She's awesome. She has a great sense of humor. Um, and I saw that and it just made my heart so warm because that's just the ultimate, most sportsmanlike thing to do.
It was so cool. It was really really special to see. Think if we talk about the community sort of worldwide, um, we can chat about a couple of friends, some people sort of that have started to mean a lot to you, if I could say that. Not to call out anyone particular, but if there's anyone sort of that you want to mention. When you go from lifting at sort of regional meets to national meets to international meets, how was that? I mean, was it a little bit terrifying? Was it fun? What was that like for you? Sort of moving from regional to international to the international stage.
It was confusing. It was definitely lots of fun
Mm-hmm.
because, but it was a little bit, at that time, I didn't know a lot of people in the powerlifting world, and going from regionals to higher events, you kind of, at that time, it would have been probably 2014, 2015. You kind of had to look up all the information on your own. So it was
Mm-hmm.
very,
Okay.
I didn't, you had to find out what deadlines, I had to find out what deadlines I had to do and all that stuff. And I didn't really know who to ask. So
Mm.
I just had to look all that up on the internet and try and decide which meets I should do. And I ended up doing kind of strange meets because of that. I did provincials, I did nationals, but I think before I even did nationals, I saw that North Americans were somewhat close to me
Mm-hmm.
that year. And before I ever did, that was my first international meet, and it happened totally by accident. Because I just saw that it was happening and applied for it. And I think they didn't. I think they saw my provincial result, which was my first meet ever,
Mm-hmm.
and let me do it. So I kind of got thrown into the mix, and I didn't really realize how high level that actually was.
Right, right.
um, yeah,
Okay, so that I mean, it's interesting. It does tend to be a baptism of fire powerlifting, where you're
always.
able to qualify for the higher meets, and you sort of kind of get dropped in it, and you've got to find your feet quite quickly. Absolutely. How was the community? How was the support from the community in that aspect? I mean, were you able to ask people for help, and or were people offering assistance?
Absolutely, yeah. So I ended up we ended up having a lot of Team Canada people at
Hmm.
that competition. And the great thing about powerlifting is no matter who's coming out there, no matter what's happening, everyone's just gonna cheer for you. Like you're gonna go out on the stage and you're gonna have people screaming at you to get the lift. They don't know you. They have no idea who you are, where you came from, but they are going to cheer you on for that lift. And that's probably my favorite thing about powerlifting, honestly,
Uh,
is just that aspect of it all.
yeah. Uh,
Um,
yeah. Look, it shows through the smile right now. So, what I think if someone was looking at getting into powerlifting or thinking about the sport, what would you tell them? Why should they get involved? Why should they join the sport, join the community?
well, number one, as far as strength training goes, for men and women, I think women have a bit, um, women especially, because in a lot of different countries, and even still in places in North America, we're not raised thinking that we should be strong. But strength is something that you can use every day in your everyday life for the rest of your life. Um, and the other thing is that powerlifting is also something that pretty much everyone can do, and it is so satisfying to push yourself towards a goal alongside your friends and family and have that sort of sense of achievement on a daily basis because
Mhm.
you're getting stronger as you go, and it's the most amazing feeling. And one one thing I think people need to realize is that you don't need to be super strong in your opinion yet. Like you don't need to have lift a certain weight before you enter a meet. Um, you go to regional meets and everyone's kind of on the same playing field mostly, where a lot of people don't really know what they're doing. They're learning.
Yeah.
As long as you can squat, bench, and deadlift according to the competition technique, you're ready to enter a meet. You don't need fancy gear. You don't need fancy equipment.
Mhm.
You just need um, to have someone to teach you what the refs are going to judge you on and how to hit that competition technique.
Yes.
But other than that, that's all you need.
It's such a valid point where uh, coaching, coming across athletes, the comment I get, and I'm sure you've encountered it often as well, is no, no, I'll enter when I can win. You know,
Yeah.
so people aren't really wanting to step up until they know that they're able to win. And then you're trying to explain to them time on the platform is the most valuable thing that you can get out of the meet. Where you know how to squat and bench and deadlift, what the refs are looking for, and how to perform at a competition, what the flights are going to be like, and when you need to be ready, what you need to watch. So I think for you, how valuable is time on the platform?
Um, Even at this level, it's
Mm,
extremely valuable because
mm.
um, out of sight, out of mind. Like during 2020, when I'm not sure how shut down South Africa was, but in Canada, pretty much
Yeah.
everything came to a stop for a very long time. Like
Mm-hmm.
we didn't have any powerlifting meets for about a year and a half. So the first competition I did um, since nationals in 2020 was worlds in 2022 because that's the only meet that we
Wow.
could do within Canada. Yeah, it
Right.
was insane. So I was very nervous. I was very nervous going into that because I actually hadn't had that feeling of competing for 2 years, just about, before doing that meet. And um, looking back on that now, like doing meets, it's so valuable just keeping that competition feeling and knowing what to expect from yourself because one thing about lifting on the platform is you always have these big numbers in your head of what you've done in the gym, and sometimes you surprise yourself, but most of the time what happens is you realize that this is actually really difficult to do in a competition setting. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing to keep in mind when you see other people in the gym lifting big weights is they may not be able to do that on the platform either. So you shouldn't count yourself out because of that.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to take into account your travel, the time that you're lifting, all of these things, the stress, the anxiety of being on the platform. Where you see guys that are coming out with big openers and bombing because they're
Yeah.
using their gym numbers, and not getting that first lift in safely, having fun with that. I think if we chat about being strong, I love what you said. Like you love being strong, and I think we spoke about this at Sun City. What's it like? And I want to say, like, not women are traditionally not raised to be strong, right? And I think it's something that's so important for just self worth, self esteem, self belief, even for safety. For being able to protect yourself, being able to do things you need to do, and when South Africans think about Canadians, we think about cars sliding off roads into snow drifts and having to lift yourself up or carry yourself miles. But, what does strong mean to you? And from a lady's point of view?
I think you hit the nail on the head saying, talking about usefulness.
Mm,
There's been so many times in my life where I've needed to use my strength in a day-to-day setting, and it comes in so handy. Um, like for a long time, I lived by myself, so I'd have to move all my own furniture a lot of
hmm
the time, and I was able to do that because I've done a lot of strength training. It's funny that you mentioned a car sliding off of icy roads because I have actually had to push my friend's SUV out of not the ice but the mud before,
Okay.
and it just must be funny like seeing a medium-sized woman do that, but it's always been one of those. It's very satisfying to be able to do that by yourself for sure. And then what you said about safety as well, like
Mm,
being strong won't necessarily um, it doesn't make you a good fighter, but at the same
mm,
time, it gives you a sense of confidence, and it's definitely going to help you, especially as a woman, because I think when women get attacked and anything along those lines. Part of it is because they're assumed to be weaker and easier
mhm.
targets. So I think being strong is actually one of the best things you could do if you're not feeling safe or
Mhm.
that, and probably jujitsu or some sort of martial arts class.
100%. It's in the self defense courses that we teach, because that's something that I'm very passionate about. I mean, also given being in South Africa, it's so important. What the strength gives you as well is one, there's a physical appearance, but it's a physical appearance in terms of how you carry your body, not being stooped over, not, it's head up, proud, walking with confidence. And guys that are criminals that are looking to attack someone, they don't want to get hurt. So they're going to look for an easier victim. So I think if we're chatting to some young ladies right now, what would you say to them? Why should they get involved? Because what you've achieved is amazing. The numbers that you're putting up are epic. Just how you are on the platform is awesome. It's a big inspiration. If you're going to chat to a group of young girls, what are you going to tell them?
Well, I think the biggest thing is there's a lot of misconceptions about lifting will make you manly. So, number one,
It hasn't
I don't
worked
think
for
that at
me.
all. But as a woman, it is you're. I think people just think you're gonna become a manly, and they picture like a giant bodybuilder, and you certainly
Mhm,
will gain muscle. But I actually think in a lot of ways, I feel like it's made me look more feminine in a lot of ways because just
mm,
the way I'm built is naturally. So I think it can help you give confidence in your body and
mm,
confidence mostly in your mind, actually. Like the mental strength you get from gaining confidence in yourself from lifting is something amazing. Um, and the other thing is too is I mean if you're scared of gaining muscle, all you have to do is just not lift weights for a while and it
mm.
goes away. So there's literally no I don't see any downside to it. I only
Yeah.
see the upside.
And I don't think there is a downside to it. And I think even, for a woman long term physiologically, in terms of bone density, the development of the nervous system, in terms of balance and coordination for older people, your reaction time, so preventing falls, all of these things. There's really no downside to powerlifting. I suppose this is why I'm doing the podcast, because my goal is to get everyone on the planet to lift. and then become the most hated man in powerlifting because every regional meet takes 3 months because everyone's competing. So, so it'll be kind of cool. So how was Sheffield?
Sheffield was one of the most unbelievable things that I've ever been a part of. I
Mm,
never, so when I started powerlifting, it was just on the edge of that upswing in popularity that we've seen
yes.
on social media and everything. So um, I've seen a world's way at the beginning that seemed like fairly casual to me, and then I've seen what they've become each year after that. And Sheffield was the absolute pinnacle of all of that. That
Mm,
stadium, the noise from the crowd was insane. Um, and that in itself um, is something I could never have dreamed of when I started powerlifting as
mhm,
an opportunity that would have been presented. It was just next level amazing to be able to have them fly you and your coach out there, staying in the hotel with all that prize money on the line,
mhm.
and all of the hype surrounding it was um, an absolute dream.
That's, I mean, that's what I love when we chatted a little bit before the podcast, and I said, "Have you got a pic?" And that picture you sent me just was epic because one, they caught your hair, the energy, and that background. I mean, what was it like lifting on that platform in that arena? I mean, it looked unbelievable.
Yeah, it was insane. We were 2 floors down when we were
Mm,
warming up,
okay.
and you could hear the crowd out there. And I thought it was a recording from one of the TVs that they were showing us, but it was the actual noise
Wow.
from 2 floors up. Um, it was so nerve-wracking for the first squat. I I could not feel my entire body. It was really crazy. But um, being able to lift out there was insane. I got a small squat PR, so
Mm.
that's why I was so happy with that. They also made me hold my squat for 12 seconds before I actually lifted it. So imagine you got your PR on your back, more weight
Wow.
than you've ever lifted in your
Yeah.
entire life. And then you have to hold it for 12 seconds before they let you squat it. And then actually completing the lift and getting 3 whites on that after
Mm,
that was just probably my favorite moment for myself of the whole meet. That or my bench actually, because
mm.
I hadn't benched. I had some elbow injuries, so I hadn't benched anything over 100 kilos before Sheffield. And then
Okay.
I tied my PR of 107.5, which I am working on, and I swear is improving. But I got that as well. So those two moments for me were the absolute best.
That's epic. I think the problem is when your coach is watching you hold the weight for 12 seconds and going, "Oh, she got a PR. Let's bring that into the training session."
Yeah, the 12-second hold. How do we
Huh?
how do we
Yeah.
account for this?
Yeah. Let's get that nervous system fired up. That's amazing. But for me, what I loved about Sheffield is it was almost like the lifters are starting to, I don't know if using the word respect is correct, or the lifters are starting to get the appreciation and the value that they deserve, in terms of the audience, the environment, the setup. It was something that was so cool to see because sort of in my head, I've always had the idea of there has to be a way to make like a Rocky style movie about powerlifting because it can literally come right down to the end. It can be a proper underdog story, and it's awesome to see that. So, for you, what would you like to see as the future of the sport?
Well, I would like to see it continue to gain popularity because
Mm,
ever since I started, there's been more and more experiences I've had in powerlifting that have been closer to what you would consider other professional sports.
yes.
I don't think powerlifting's ever going to be as popular as something like basketball, football, soccer, or anything, but we are getting there where we're closing the gap and becoming more interesting to the world, which I love. So I just want to see more of that. I would love to see powerlifting in the Olympics because that
Mm,
would do so much for the sport on a world level because then countries start actually funding it federally. If it's an Olympic sport, they will pay more people to do it. Some countries already do, but not all of them for
mhm.
sure. So that's what I would like to see. I don't know if it will make the Olympics in the next while just because of all the drama with weightlifting
Yeah,
and the politics there, but I still think that events like Sheffield and opportunities like that are um, becoming making powerlifting a more professional sport.
absolutely. I think, and like the support from the sponsors like SPD is incredible. I mean, to
Yes.
to put on an event like that, and I think that's, you know what, I think it comes out making, showing the lifters how special they are to the community. That's the words that I was trying to find. So yeah, we can hold out and hope for Olympic recognition. Well, recognition and then inclusion. It'll be really good. Maybe if they allow Master Sevens, I'll be I'll step up. Um, by, by then, I've been also threatening to come back as well, which is fun. But not having pains and injuries is not something I've known for a while. So it's fun. No, by the way, interesting. No injuries from lifting, injuries from martial arts. I started my lifting career because I was getting too injured fighting, and it's given me the mobility. I think just to mention, I mean, I'm 52. I got to hang out and work with the South African spotting and loading team. And I think I worked out on my Fitbit, it was like 4 to 4.5 thousand calories a day because I was working every session. And that
Oh
shows you,
wow.
yeah, that shows you the value of the sport. That an old fart like me can basically hang out with these youngsters that are amongst the best in the world and not get injured and not die. I mean, that's the beautiful, beautiful thing about what powerlifting gives us. Another story I thought you'd appreciate. I was I did my internet my cat 2 now in Hong Kong, but at Sun City at World Bench I was still a national ref, and hopped. I was there, hopped out of the shower, was relaxing. I got a message from Heather Layton to say, "Hey, your TC at this session," and no
Oh
no
no.
one had told me. Literally, I got dressed and ran from the cabanas down to the venue in my ref's gear in boots, and I made it in 7 minutes. So, which is not bad, and that's quite a
That's
distance. So, standing there as TC, trying hard not to sweat. Um, that's the beautiful thing about the sport, that it gives you longevity. So for you going forward with your career, what would you like to see? Is there anything sort of that you're planning? What's in the future, or what would you like to see in the future
mm, for myself or for the sport?
for you? I mean, there's more we can chat about the sport as well. I want to chat about that as well, but for yourself personally.
For myself personally, my first goal that I really want to achieve. I mean, I always wanted to be an open world champion,
Mm-hmm.
but now that I've done that, I want to deadlift 600 pounds in competition.
Sure.
I need to do it, and I know that I can. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of finding the right the right rhythm, the right
Mm-hmm.
training block, and making that work. Not pushing too hard is the hardest thing, um, because you're doing so great, and then all of a sudden something uh, kind of gets messed up and you lose some momentum. But that is my primary goal because if I do it now, I would still be the first woman to do that in the IPF.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still time for that, and
Yeah.
I really want to do that this year, like this 12 months from now. Within there, I want to be able to do it. Um, and then honestly, I still think I thought I was going to switch to 84 kilos, which I probably will eventually. But I'm actually finding that I think I have some more room in the 76s.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see where that takes me. And my other goal would be to become a world champion, become a three-time world champion in the 76.
Mhm.
I think I can do it again. It's just I just have to find, I just have to not push myself too hard. This year was actually really, really difficult in that regard because I had to do Canadian Nationals, 5 weeks later, Sheffield, and then 9 weeks later, IPF Worlds.
Mm.
So it was very difficult as
Sure.
far as making actual progress.
Right.
Those are my two goals.
Okay. Epic. And we you have to smash them. So.
Hmm. I
Is there
have
any,
to.
yeah, is there anything more on sort of the future of the sport you'd like to chat about?
Um, As far as the future of the sport goes, I think Sheffield, I hope it
Mhm.
continues every single year from SBD because
Mhm.
that's already motivated so many people to even change over from the USAPL.
Yeah.
Um, I hope that other powerlifting federations will kind of hop on board and develop their own
Hmm.
similar thing if they can because it creates competition and it raises the standard for
Yeah,
everybody. I think
absolutely.
Sheffield across the board was great that way because
Mm.
all these other federations are seeing saying, "Oh, okay, this is the standard now." So I love that, and I hope we all continue to get pushed. Um, I would like to see it. The Olympic sport thing, I wish it would be. I wish we could get that because it would just open the doors
Yeah,
so
that's
much
it.
as far as funding and people getting more opportunities. That being said, there is a lot of opportunity in powerlifting um, that you wouldn't really think. Like I've indirectly gotten noticed for two of the biggest jobs I've had because of powerlifting because
Okay.
I was a junior world champion on my resume. It lets employers know that you
Mhm.
work hard and know how to manage time. Um, and it makes you stand out when you have something like that on there.
Mm.
And the other thing is I've just made a lot of connections, I guess career wise, friends wise, and have gotten a lot of opportunity that, yeah, I never would have dreamed. Like just the amount of travel I've been able to do
Mm.
on account of powerlifting has been super awesome because I've always been someone who loves to travel. Anything like that as well. And yeah, where do you see the future of the sport going?
So you made such a valid point with your CV and having sort of accomplishments on it. One of the things that we did here when we set up our development academy to support lifters from disadvantaged communities, you had a chance to meet a couple of the guys. Is when even at provincial level, it's at state level, you have an opportunity, you win or you medal, and that goes onto your CV. It helps you stand out. So it's something so important for parents because to get their kids into. The thing that I love about the sport is firstly, and also being an alcoholic. When I was drinking, it was all about immediate gratification, right? And what powerlifting teaches you is delayed gratification, and that's something we can all learn. And as you said, the hardest thing about the sport is when you're doing well is to maintain your protocol and your stay on track and not jump ahead because you're lifting so well, you want to go a little bit more, and then things happen. So for me, really, I want to see a lot more, interesting enough, youth development and more senior people getting involved in the sport. That's really what I'm trying to do with this, because for the youth, if we're talking about communities that are challenged, where then this is an opportunity to get them off the street. The one thing I learned working with addicts, which is awesome. If I tell an addict in a rehab center who's been in there for a week and hates the world and everyone because they don't want to be there, if I tell them, right, just do 10 push-ups, they'll never listen to me. They'll argue with me. They'll make excuses. But if I put them in a challenge against another addict and fire up their egos, they will set themselves alight and do 100, literally. Because, and that's the beautiful thing about lifting, where you have youth from challenged communities, instead of going out and drinking and or taking drugs, they understand, hang on, if I do this, I'm going to lose the bench press challenge next week and I've got to beat my mates. So it's a great excuse to get in. If we're talking from a young girl and a high school girl's perspective, the girls who are bigger that don't necessarily perform so well in the traditional sports, the girls who are heavier do so well in lifting, and I've seen it so
Hmm.
many times where suddenly, they've got the biggest lift in the class and their faces light up and they start to the sport changes how you think about yourself. It changes how you think about your body. And it gives you the opportunity to work towards something long term. I'm getting goosebumps talking about this. But like that's what I love about powerlifting. It's even if you're not winning, championships yet, if you stick with it, there's the opportunity to do so. And it shows you what your body's meant for and what you can do with it. It's not about what we look like. And the physical benefits are great. They're fantastic. But understanding like being strong is the most awesome thing in the entire world because strength is neural, so everything else comes from that. Our balance, our coordination, our stamina, our endurance. But being strong is so cool, and seeing these kids lift something they never thought they could do changes their lives. Where you if you genuinely believe you can't do something, Jess, and then if you genuinely believe you can't lift a weight and then you do when you hit a PR, it can change your life and how you think about yourself. So for me, that's my mission, is to get as many people lifting and involved as possible, focusing on the youth and then also the older members of the community. Because a friend of mine posted on Facebook yesterday, there are supermarkets in the Netherlands, I think it is Denmark or the Netherlands, one of where they've introduced slow checkout tills so that lonely older members of the community can have someone to chat to. So you can have a 10,
Oh,
a 10-minute chat while you're checking out. And it's been so successful. They've rolled it out to all of their 2,000 stores. Now they've introduced a chat corner where they can get a free cup of coffee and have someone to chat to. And like just I think what one of the reasons powerlifting is so special is because you lift and then you sit around and chat for 3, 4, 5 minutes and then go lift again. That's what makes it so social. So yeah. So sorry. Thank you for letting me chat. Yeah, that's what I love about the sport.
oh,
That's
me
what I
too.
want from
I
it.
love what you said about um I think a lot of um like bigger girls and
Mm,
like boys as well, but especially for women, um it is so empowering and so amazing to focus on not what your body looks like, but what it can do.
yeah.
And that's what's amazing about powerlifting. And the other thing is too, like you said, is if you're heavier, you actually have a better. People who are heavier inherently have more muscle mass
Mm,
already, and they have some of the highest potential to do well in powerlifting because it's actually one of the least occupied weight classes are the super heavyweight weight classes and the heavier ones. So there's actually really good potential for success in the sport at a higher body weight. And it is such an awesome mentality shift because yeah, it's all about what your body can do, and it is amazing what it can do, and you would never believe how much you can improve in honestly like a relatively short amount of time. It feels like a long time when you look at it at the start, but
mm.
after you've made so much progress it feels like an instant.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's, listen, on a lighter side, as a guy, what I love about powerlifting is I started in the 83s, in the 93s, in the 105s. Now I'm toying with 120. So I can have that cheesecake if I really want it. But but it is, and it's just when I see like at World Bench now at Sun City with some of the heavier girls, like they were having so much fun. They were loving themselves and loving what they could do, and that it was just incredible to see. and it's not about being super skinny or super. It's about using your body, living at the weight that you were meant to be, genetically that you're at, because some of us are heavier.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
I've always been heavier as well, and I'm pretty, as far as North America goes, I'm
mm,
pretty medium sized, but I always felt a lot bigger than a lot of the other girls in my class, and I tried so hard not to gain weight for years. Track and field was actually kind of bad for that because everyone who does track is just super lean and usually very light.
mm-hmm,
So that was always really tough for me. I was always trying to diet and I was always trying to run for really long distances to try to lose weight. And it was super stressful because I had to run every single day to maintain it because I just couldn't, I just couldn't stay at the body weight that I thought I had to for track and field. So when I started powerlifting, it was actually really great for me because it got me way more comfortable gaining weight because I liked the way my body looked and felt when I gained weight because when you gain muscle from lifting, it changes the shape of your body in I think the best way possible.
mm,
Um, because you can't control where the fat comes off. If you're obsessive like I've always been, you can't just say, "Oh, I want this fat on my stomach to disappear" or whatever. But then once you start lifting and you start gaining muscle in the right places, it becomes more about proportions. Like your arms and legs fill out and you get more of the figure you always wanted. And I don't know, somehow the small amounts of body fat you have wherever, it just stopped mattering to me after a while.
mm-hmm.
Just because I felt so much more satisfied with what I was doing. I was becoming better at my sport and at the same time, to my pleasant surprise, I actually liked my body more as I got heavier, which is the opposite of how it had always been throughout my entire life, which I think is super cool.
It's incredible. I mean, it's wonderful to hear you talk about that because I think the challenge with school, and I suppose like life, but school, it's a little bit more intense where you get lumped together with all of these different kids and all of these different shapes and sizes. And then society tells us there's certain norms that we have to stick to in terms of what we look like. And if we can't do it, we literally can kill ourselves trying to be thin, and trying to lose that
Hmm.
fat. And I love what you said because it's easy to control the fat loss on your body because wherever you want to lose the fat, that's where your body's not going to lose it. It's going to lose it
It's
last.
just not. It's
Yeah,
just not.
the fat
It's
you
just gonna
don't
stay.
care about's the fat that's going to go first. It's all
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. It's funny.
Yeah. So how did that change sort of how your lifting and your body changing, but understanding what your body could do? How did that change how you felt about yourself at that younger age?
Yeah, I think when I officially decided to start powerlifting more seriously, I was probably I think 19,
Mm,
maybe 20. And I was at the time uncomfortable with the weight I was at because I was a bit heavier and then I always had broad shoulders and I never the particular thing for me is I just never liked my stomach. It always just drove me crazy, like
mm,
the shape of it. And even though I never had like that much extra body fat, I just did not like my body the way it was. Um, because I was always trying to change the shape of my body, but you can't really do that without lifting. Um, so I when I decided to start powerlifting more seriously, I kind of just threw that to the wind. I said, okay, I'm gonna try to stop being so obsessive about how I look because it's not getting me anywhere. And I'm just going to start lifting weights. I'm just going to improve my diet. I said I'm not going to because I used to try really hard to restrict my calories as well, which I think
mhm,
every female does. Like you just think, oh, okay, I got to eat less, and then you try to, and you get super hungry, and then
mm.
eventually end up overeating and those sorts of things. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm gonna just structure my meals instead of trying to starve myself. I'm just gonna try to eat regularly. I'm going to eat lots of protein. I'm going to train really hard. And what ended up happening is I felt so much better. And when I started to be able to lift heavier and heavier weights, it was the coolest thing. I
Mm,
was getting so amped up for my competition. I ended up, like I said, I ended up pleasantly surprising myself because I didn't think, I thought I was really scared of gaining weight. But when I did gain weight, um, I found I loved having so much more muscle like
mhm.
on my legs and then um shoulders and everything like that. I just found that I liked the way I felt better and I liked the way I looked better and I also was just so much more confident because I was suddenly focused and doing a lot better at powerlifting and getting towards those goals I needed to be at for my first
Mm.
competition. I was getting towards my first 400-pound deadlift, which I had been trying to do for a little while casually. And what I mean by casually is just going out there and trying to do it every day that I worked out, which is pretty common when you first start powerlifting. You just max out all the time.
Yeah.
But I learned not to do that. And then um, gave myself some time in between. And then sooner or later, I hit that 400-pound deadlift. My squats started going up as well. Um, and it was just all around like a kind of a turning point in my life, honestly.
Mm.
Because before that, I was not feeling so good about things. I was kind of um, I had gotten out of a relationship that wasn't so good, and um, just switching over to powerlifting just took my mind off all of those other things and gave me something else to focus on.
Right.
And I think that was honestly the best thing.
That's when we start shifting our focus from the numbers on the scale to the numbers on the bar, that can become life changing, and sort of understanding that, our weight is not our worth. And, that's it, it's the progressive aspect of it. Yeah. I think people going through tough times, powerlifting is a very safe space to go and hang out in, and just because it's you time as well, which is, I think, something people lack so much, where we don't take time for ourselves. So I think from a mental health aspect, it's also phenomenal. So that's, yeah, that's really cool, and it's a wonderful thing to hear, because you know we can look at the numbers, we can look at performance, and when you're an elite athlete, everyone's sort of tracking, sort of where you are. But what it comes down to is sort of what the sport has really given you in adding to your quality of life, is something that's really, really special. So, which is, yeah, that's put a big smile on my face. Thank you for sharing that as well. So, I think for is there anything else sort of that you would like to add or to talk about?
Mm, honestly, I don't think so.
Mm,
Other than that, I think if anyone is listening that is worried about not having access to equipment, I
mm,
know there's probably a lot less type of weightlifting gyms in some parts of South Africa than in
mm.
North America, for example.
Yeah.
But you don't need those. You don't need the competition. All you need are the competition weights on meet day. You don't need them before then. You just need some weights to lift.
Yeah.
You need a bar and some plates. So I wouldn't worry about the equipment as much. I
Mm,
just worry about learning the sport and getting out there and finding a group of people that you can lift with, and you'll just get so much out of that. And I wish people
mm,
would give it a shot. And that's the other thing you touched on as well, is that powerlifting is something you can do. You can start at any point in life,
mm-hmm.
and um, it's one of those sports that if you're not pushing yourself too hard, it is very low injury risk, and it's something you can do at any age, which is so spectacular. That's very unique.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the best experiences I had in my life is there's an old age home up the road from me. So I got invited to do some training with the members, the people that are staying there. You have people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and taking through some PVC pipes, and letting them, like, sitting in a chair, standing up, just squatting like that. lying doing some bench press, where the bench press was easy, getting them up and down off the bench was really the fun part because it was a
Yeah.
poor workout. But they were just the laughing, and they were the guys were making fun of one another. The girls were, and these are guys in their 70s and 80s. It was so wonderful to see. I think the one thing I've noticed with sort of following you on social as well is you train in quite a few different environments, at quite a few different gyms. It's not always the same gym. And the one thing that I've noticed with some of our younger guys is they always want to train on competition equipment with competition plates on a carpet, on the Leica carpet, and then suddenly when like in Hong Kong, it was a different rig because it was one of the sponsors. I can't even pronounce hey. Anyway, yes, not Jesus. That wouldn't be a Chinese rig. But sorry, that's terrible. What's it? Is there a reason for that, or is it just a convenience thing for you? Like,
Um, Convenience thing, but I also like to switch it up a little bit
mm,
because I think it's always good to have a little bit, a few variables thrown in there. Also, I train at home. I have a
mm,
Alico weights at home, but I like to see my friends at the gym,
yeah.
and that's where we don't have the Alico weights. So, and then I also travel a lot, so you have to go to different gyms, and I actually used to be a relief pharmacist. So what that
Mm.
means is I would work in different pharmacies across about a 600-kilometer range,
Wow.
square area probably. Yeah, so I would drive sometimes 5 hours to work. So you'd have to work out in the small town gyms that have
Wow.
really sketchy sort of setups.
Okay.
One had like artificial turf that was underneath the squat rack, which was interesting. That was probably my least favorite because
Yeah.
it's really hard to plant your feet into there. Um, but I think it's always good because
Mm,
there'll always be something that feels a bit different on meet day. Don't
mm,
get me wrong, I think it's very good to lift on competition spec stuff,
mm-hmm.
especially the carpet in the weeks leading up to the meet.
Yes.
But as far as just your normal training, I thought a little bit of variation is good for a person. It
Uh-huh.
makes you appreciate the nice weights when you get back to them.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a regional championships. I'm not going to mention where, but it was in a lovely old hall. I think they called it their Olympic arena, and the hall was wooden. So in order the flooring, so to protect the flooring, they
Oh,
put down like your standard gym mat, that thick foam. They put down 2 layers of that. So we're trying to warm up for squat standing on that and then deadlifting on that as well. And we moved it; they came and moved it back. So yeah, not having a perfect situation every training session helps a lot.
yeah, for sure. Wood is also really
Mm.
bouncy.
Mm.
Even
Yeah,
if you have a platform over it, I find, anyways, you
a
can feel the bar move a lot.
lot. Yeah, it doesn't help me get that bounce off the bottom of my squat, but anyway, uh, I think if we chatting, I think let's say we're chatting to sort of guys in the community now, so the gym owners and stuff. How do you think? How could they encourage? So people in our community, but maybe the gym owner side, how can they encourage people to get into the sport? Can you imagine if we got every single member of the powerlifting community just to bring in one new member? Maybe that's something that we need to put out as a challenge. Just bring in one new member. We'll double our membership, we'll double the number of people, and then aim for that every year. But any ideas from your side or any suggestions?
Well, actually, a few things that our gym, I know the owners quite well. I've been friends with
Mm,
them for a long time. So something a lot of gyms do is they do boot camps or classes at the gym.
mm-hmm.
And what the guys at our gym were doing for a long time actually is one of the classes you could choose per week was a powerlifting class. So you would do essentially the same kind of workout, but just progress it every single week. So they
Right,
would help teach people how to do that in that hour span. So you could just keep signing up for it. It was once or twice a week, and it got a lot of people into it who just wanted to learn how to do those movements.
right.
The other thing you can do is if you have personal trainers, you can um, just add just if they know how to powerlift, you can advertise that they will train you for that, or they can offer you a program. And then the third thing, one thing that I hope we can do this year is, back before COVID, when we had a lot more events going on, we used
Mm,
to do a few things. Like, we had this thing called Ladies Night at the bar, where it was a women's night where we got myself, Canadian, like Canada's Strongest Woman, um, the Jackie Oshevsky,
mhm.
who went to our gym at the time. We got her, and then a few other Olympic lifters to teach a class where everyone essentially would work up to a tentative max on either a squat, bench, or deadlift in that session. And
Wow.
then we would all just have a couple drinks and donuts after. And we would do that. We did a few of those, and they were fantastic. We got so many women to come out. We got a lot of people interested in the sport. One of them has hit a 350-pound squat since then, which is actually amazing.
Wow.
Um, because she really stuck with it. And there's been a few who actually still powerlift, and they don't. Most of them don't powerlift competitively, but I see them
Mm.
low bar squatting in the gym, and I just think that's so awesome because I saw them on a couple of their first days.
That's epic. Those are brilliant ideas. I think it
Hmm.
is. I think it's about our community getting a little bit creative, just in terms of trying to get people involved. Because I mean, for me, I don't know of a better sport. Because in terms of the community, what it does for you physically, what it does for your mental health, and also as a way of complementing other sports, any sport that you're involved in, the power lifts are going to improve your quality. That's why we set up the academy, because I started training some rugby kids from Queen's High School, which is it's a good high school, but it's in a very challenging area. There are big drug issues. There's behavioral issues in the community, and these kids came to me, and they after we did a training session at their school, and they were like, "Coach, can we come and train at your gym?" And I saw the incredible effort and commitment and energy that they put into their training sessions, and I realized, yeah, this, okay, I've got to help and to share a story with you. Which was a turning point for me in terms of the academy. That my gym's about probably an hour and 30-minute walk from where they live, but it's up a hill and up a little bit of a ridge and then down, so it's quite a serious walk. And we had a major high-fell thunderstorm that afternoon, and it's like literally walking underwater. The rain is so heavy. And I got to the gym and I thought, there's no way these guys had come through. Like, the rain had started when they were about to leave, and it was raining even before. And I'm sure that I would have turned around and gone home. And I got to the gym, and they were all there sopping wet and
That's
ready to
awesome.
train. And that's when I realized, like, that's what it meant to them, because performing well in sport meant a bursary or a scholarship, which meant a way of them breaking out of that cycle of poverty and the financial struggles that they were facing. And, 6 of the guys got scholarships to another school for rugby. And the thing just that meant the most to them was not the fact that their education was paid for, not the fact that the books were paid for, not the fact that the accommodation was paid for or the uniforms. It was the fact that they got 3 meals a day.
Oh,
And
wow.
you think about that, what that actually means is like being able to eat 3 times a day, what they did for their grades, what they did for their school performance. And a couple of the guys went on to get university scholarships based on their rugby, and we're still involved with them a little bit. So that's the value of the sport, where, maybe a coach or a gym can open up to a couple of lifters or a couple of athletes from communities in their area that are facing challenges, and just help these kids excel, because the effort, the energy, the commitment is there. They just need the opportunity. And like, I don't know of another sport, excuse the pun, bar Olympic lifting, that would be able to do that. But I think the simplicity of the power lifts they make them easier to teach, easier to learn, and easier to apply. And I've literally then from that seen the sport change lives. We have a couple of guys that came through our academy, worked with us, that are now working in other gyms, Cap, the guy is still with
Mhm.
us. The guys have done so well. It's a very special sport, and that's why it's so important to me. So, but yeah,
Absolutely.
so
Powerlifting can provide so many opportunities. It's kind of crazy.
yeah.
And I think people should not count that out because it really does stand out. Every single person because I like traveling, even going across
Mm,
customs, people always ask, why are you going where you're going? I was like, oh, I'm powerlifting. And they're always just so interested. It's just a talking point. It's something that stands out on a resume.
mm,
It's something that an employer would look at and be like, oh, that is really cool. Um, and even beyond that, like beyond opportunities for travel and making friends, it's just so fantastic that way.
yeah, 100%. After Worlds in Sweden, I think 2019, I was coming back through Dubai and coming through security, and I had collars, the Alico collars in my carry-on because I didn't
Oh,
want to
nice.
leave them in my suitcase. And I got stopped by security, and this guy who was a monster stood up and he's like, Whose are these?" Because I had to take my shoes off. I got delayed going through the scanner. And my athlete who was with me, Simon, was very happily pointing at me, going, they're his, and having a big laugh. So when I got to the desk, the guy was like, the English was a barrier. He was like, "Moto, moto." So I think he was asking me for car parts. So I said,
Oh,
"No, no, squat, squat." And for the bar. And he was like, okay, great.
that's
So,
funny.
yeah, they got me through customs without losing my collars or being arrested.
Nice.
So
The
there's
second
another
one's
benefit.
probably better.
Yeah, it can
Yeah,
keep
there's another benefit.
yeah, it can keep you out of prison. Oh, dude. Thank you so much for your time, Jess. I really appreciate it. From your side, is there anything else you'd like I mean, we could chat for hours, I know. So, but you've got to get to bed and I've got to get to work. No, just kidding. Um, is there anything else from you? And also, thanks for putting up with me with the delay on the camera, so I can do stuff like this, and then it doesn't make sense.
It's crazy watching the screen. No, thank
Oh
you
no,
for
sorry.
having me on. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it, and it was nice talking to you again. I
yeah, it
hope I
was.
make it to South Africa sometime again. It's quite an amazing place. I wish I would have had the time to travel more when I was there.
So I think if we have another comp, and I'm sure we will, you got to make time, and we'll if you can make time with your schedule, and we look forward to showing you around because it's awesome. I think chatting to the guys here, they would be quite keen to put on a comp in Cape Town as well. Sun City is a great venue, but Cape Town is also a wonderful experience. And plus, the extra oxygen down there doesn't hurt either. The air quality in Cape Town is great. So you can try,
Oh, nice.
sort of up the numbers a bit. So that's something that we're looking forward to in the next year or two. But yeah, and then we're looking forward to you getting those two goals. It's awesome to watch you. It's awesome to watch you deadlift because my PB in comp with my back was 197.5. So, which I'm still very happy with. But like watching you lift, I go, oh man, I wish I could lift like a girl. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's true. It's like, it's just epic because, you see people becoming optimal and you like fulfilling what their potential is and discovering their potential, which is just so cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Is there anyone you would like to give a shout out to? And if there's anyone watching that wants to drop a question quickly, maybe we can do that. But anyone you want to say hi to, other than the puppy that's,
Um,
I'm sorry.
yeah, not my dog. She's sleeping over there.
Okay.
Um, Honestly, I'm just very grateful for the opportunities I've had and sponsors as well. SPD,
Hmm.
Inner Strength Canada, Rascal. I've gathered a lot of friends throughout the years, and I'm very grateful for all of them.
Oh,
My
that's epic.
family.
Yeah. Awesome. That's cool. All right, I'm going to end the podcast and then we'll chat quickly. We're going to end the broadcast. Give me 1 second. So, thank you very much. Okay.